I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite of.
Where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time. Pride Edition.
Right, yes. So obviously Pride is very important to us, and we recently had a Pride TV championship where we put some of our favorite LGBTQ plus shows to the test to see what you, the listeners / people that follow us on social media, thought was the best one.
Heck yeah.
It was very surprising.
Yeah, it was totally surprising. And again, these were just some of our favorites, the two of us. We know that there's so much other representation out there, which is freaking amazing, by the way. The fact that we had a spoil of riches here, where there were things that could be left off a list of LGBTQIA plus representation in television is huge.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, it would not have been this extensive of a championship.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, I mean, the fact that we had this many brackets is amazing.
Yeah, and I do want to say some of the pairings, we paired some of them, and we were like, what else would we pair this one with?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so all of the shows, just to name them off, just to give you, the listener, in case you didn't see the championship, you can still find it on our social media. The shows, going in order, is Killing Eve, Wynonna Earp, Steven Universe, She-Ra, RuPaul's Drag Race, Queer Eye, Umbrella Academy, Bly Manor, Pose, Sense8, Will and Grace, both the new one and the old one. It's just kind of encompassing that. Schitt's Creek, Love Victor, Euphoria, Special, and Sex Education. So that's a lot of shows right off the bat. And obviously there are some that are left off. And through the course of this, people were like, why isn't Queer as Folk on there? Why isn't L Word on there? I mean, again, some of our favorite ones, and we felt like these shows encompassed good representation, not only for, gay people and lesbians and transgender people and questioning and interracial and all of that, but they were just good shows. The typically ones that don't end in the gay protagonist dying or getting bullied the entire time or getting beaten. So it was also very hard to narrow it down that way. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, these are definitely ones that we thought encompassed more of the community than some of the older things. And some of the shows that folks were mentioning were truly groundbreaking for the time. But we're lucky enough that we've come further in the future where there's more intersectionality between being LGBTQIA plus and something else as well.
Right.
A lot of the older shows, which still happens as far as representation, like in literature and in movies, it's sort of like that cis white male protagonist,
which is pretty much strictly why we took Queer as Folk off of there, because not every gay person, just gay, is a tiny white guy that likes to go to clubs and have sex all the time.
Right.
It's not great representation for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't identify with that. I didn't even identify as that.
Right. And neither did I. I mean, I was someone who was yearning to find representation out there. And so I turned to the show thinking, well, this is it. This is going to be the thing. And I think when it came out, I was like 16 or 17. So one, I couldn't even do any of the things that they were doing. And also just physically, I didn't look like any of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a chubby, hairy, now balding guy, and none of that was represented in that show.
Right.
So I wanted it so badly, and I tried so badly to watch it, but I just knew that wasn't me. So as a mirror, it did not reflect my own image.
Exactly. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure a lot of this was encompassed. And also, again, it was kind of our favorites, and we wanted to see what you guys thought.
Right. and the thing is that I think that there's respect there, and those people that maybe Queer as Folk for them was a reflection of their life and something that helped them in a time when maybe they didn't feel like they saw themselves in media. That's a beautiful thing.
Of course.
But that just wasn't the experience that you nor I had.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's not really about what's not on there. It's about what's on there and what you like. Really. That's
right.
all for fun.
Why are we paying so much attention to what's not on the brackets? Look at what's on the brackets. Okay. Dang.
So I did. Schitt's Creek was the winner overall, which honestly, I have to say is surprising.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
I think most people do love Schitt's Creek. And I feel like what it came down to with this championship was what had the bigger audience.
Sure.
And what was more accessible to people.
Absolutely.
Pose is on there. I love Pose. It only had 3 seasons, which is kind of a bummer, but it told the story it needed to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It had an entire cast of people of color, transgender actors on there. I mean, amazing. It's very groundbreaking, very progressive. the stuff it told in there wasn't just about representation, but it was also how there's internal homophobia within the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
Because you'll have some of these main characters go to a gay bar and they'll kick them out. Not only because they're people of color, but because they're transgender.
Totally.
So it's seeing that you don't really get to see any of that in media. So it was very like, oh, gross.
Yeah.
But it needed to be shown because it wasn't that typical, like, oh, at the end of the story, this person dies. You know?
Yeah. And I think that, we had sort of touched on the topic of internalized homophobia in the gay community when we talked about the activist Sylvia Rivera in the special segment of our Shadow and Bone season, Badass to the Bone. And I also love what Pose does is that it's showing a snapshot of this community during a very specific time in New York. So we have the ballroom scene in the 80s and the 90s, and that's something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
There was Paris is Burning, which was a documentary, but to kind of bring it that feeling into a dramatic show, I think was amazing.
Yeah, especially it's serialized, and I mean, everybody loves TV shows, but I feel like with something like this, you really get to sit with it, and you get to grow with it, and you get to experience it in a longer form. Of course, documentaries are great and movies are great, but they tell a certain part of it. Movies always have a point to make, but with shows, each season can have a different point. And in Pose, what I really loved about it, not only the balls and everything like that is amazing, but you also got to see this aspect that not many people talk about with the LGBTQ community is the found family. So tons of youth, tons of people that get kicked out, tons of people that get disowned, anything like that. They find a family.
Right.
Be that with your best friend's family or a relative that supports you and your immediate family didn't. This really did that. And it didn't just talk about transgender people. It talked about gay people. It talked about people with HIV because it was during that big crisis as well. So that show, I mean, I was really pulling for Pose for a lot of it. And I think what it came down to was the audience wasn't there. And I'm not saying like, oh, our audience should reach all these people, but it was on a specific network. And I remember I didn't have cable and it was hard for me to watch at first. So, it only has 3 seasons. So I really feel like it just came down audience on that. And also it was paired with Sense8, which in hindsight, probably shouldn't have paired those two together, but it is what it is. Speaking of Sense8, also another show I love so much. Again, why did we put these two shows together? Who knows?
So Sense8, I watched, I think like the first season or 2, and then I got so confused and I kind of let it go.
Oh my God.
I know. Can you believe it? But I remember loving the first season because it has like sort of everything that I enjoy, which is like, there's like a sort of magical aspect to it, and there's powers, and there's connection, and there's family, and there's diversity, and there's coming out stories, and it has so much good stuff in it.
Yeah, I do want to say, like, I think it was in the first episode. I remember watching this with my mom, and I believe in the first episode, Naomi and their partner are having sex, and just a goopy dildo gets thrown on the floor, and I was like, what is this? And then I was in love.
What a wonderful bonding experience for you and your mother. That's fantastic.
But the show does, I mean, outside of the supernatural element of it, which is really cool, there is that, I mean, you have straight couples in here, you have, fluid couples in here, all of them are connected in a sexual and spiritual and physical way. But also you have interracial couples, you have trans couples, you have all of this in one show with 8 characters, and it's insane.
Now, were they considered brothers and sisters?
No.
They were just connected.
Right.
Okay. So the giant orgy they all had together
was fine.
Okay.
It was consensual, and they're not related.
I mean, this show is also very sexually charged.
Right.
I feel, which is a great thing, because I feel in so much LGBT people in shows are almost like sterilized in a sense.
I feel like it's a spectrum with it. And it's only 2-sided. They never go in between.
Very true.
That's what I liked about Sense8. It got like hypersexual in some points, but even the orgies or the sexual stuff that happened in it, in a weird way, it was like it's telling more of the story while that's happening But I feel like in media, it's either they never show even a kiss
Mm-hmm.
or all they do is sex. And
You
it's
know,
like,
husbands just high five each other all the time.
Right.
It's no big deal.
do a little hip bump. You know,
Right,
it's
exactly.
like, what? Oh, come on, kiss. What the hell?
Kiss, say I love you, hug each other after a day of work.
Right.
It's what normal people do.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I love Sense8 so much. I thought the cast was phenomenal. It was really sad when Netflix decided to cancel it because it was too expensive. And I put that in quotes because they're pumping out shit all the time. And this one got canceled.
I will say, though, I would have loved to be a cast member on this show because they got to travel the world.
Well, that's what was why it got canceled, because they actually shot in the locations that these people were at. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense because they had to shoot separately and then all come together during the sex scenes or fight scenes
Right.
and go
Right.
separately.
Oh my God, can we just talk about Duna Bay for a second?
Yes.
Oh my God, the fight scenes. So, like, in the show, they each sort of have a special talent,
Right.
that the others can sort of fall into and grab that talent from them when they need it.
It's
And-
almost like they can like tap into the other people's talents
Exactly.
or they take control over their body in a way.
Yeah. So Duna Bay is so incredible.
Mhm.
I love the fight scenes. I have followed Duna Bay on Instagram since Sense8 first came out, and I will never stop following her.
Oh, yeah.
One, because she's just like awesome and a fashion plate and an amazing actress.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, her fighting skills in the show were just chef's kiss, top notch.
Yeah, I love amazing. I mean, I don't think there's a single character in this show or even actor that I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to say Naomi was probably my favorite because you have this very strong woman that didn't really offer anything physical or anything like that, but she always kept them together. She always kept them in hiding. Without her, without the woman in the chair, they all
Mhm.
would have died in like the first season. So thank you, Naomi. Yeah, but it is sad that it ended. I thought it was great for representation, not just for LGBTQ, but for, different cultures, different races,
Yeah.
everything like that. So good.
Well, and even the team that was putting it together, the actors, the production, the producers themselves, the creators were also part of the community.
Exactly. I mean, that's at the base of it, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this list, most, if not all, are created by people that are diverse, are LGBTQ. You have to have those people tell those stories because it is weird for somebody that has never been in those shoes, may have had somebody experience those things, but tell a certain community what is good representation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I guess, but you don't know. Like, you're not talking from experience. You're just researching it and then regurgitating what you see. And it's very apparent.
Absolutely.
Some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, is there, before we move on to some of our other favorites on there, is there any show that won that surprised you, like within any of the brackets?
Something that won that surprised me was actually Queer Eye over RuPaul's Drag Race.
I was thinking the same thing.
So the reason that I say that, I love both of these shows.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll admit that my love for RuPaul's Drag Race has sort of fallen off probably within the last year. I think there's some stuff happening in the production. It's feeling a little more forced now. It's not as
Right.
natural as it once was. They're looking for drama. For me, it happened when they leapt over to VH1. Personally, I think the last best season is season 9, but I'm sure I'll have people who disagree with me.
Is that Jinx Monsoon?
No, that's season
6.
5.
Oh, 5.
That's season 5.
That's like the one and only season I've watched all the way through. I've
Yes.
seen bits and pieces of all of them, but that's like one of the best seasons.
Well, that has first of all, that has one of the strongest groups of queens ever.
Right.
You have Alaska Talks and you have Jinx Monsoon in there
Mhm.
and Alyssa Edwards and the Coco Montrese. Oh my God, that season just had like natural built-in drama from the first flipping episode. And then as things went on, the underdog story and then the bullies and then, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Really good.
Oh my God, so good. But I thought RuPaul's Drag Race, is literally an Emmy Award-winning reality show now.
Right.
I think Queer Eye is too. But
Oh, yes.
but RuPaul's Drag Race has won multiple times. And in when I think about like the popularity of a reality show, RuPaul's Drag Race is one of the most popular reality shows on television right now.
And it does transcend the community. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've had tons of friends that aren't LGBTQ, and they're like, I love that show. And I'm like, oh, that's surprising. Because for so long, it was just like, don't tell anybody I'm watching the show. Like, nobody
Mhm.
can know I like the show. But then you just have everybody's watching the show.
Oh, absolutely.
It's become so popular now.
Well, and that's what's so crazy is that it started out as sort of like this, I don't know, let's nail some boards together and we'll call that the main stage show. In season 1, if you look at the quality of season
real
1,
bad.
it's really, really bad. It's really bad. Like you could tell that's a curtain that they just bought a giant piece of fabric from and hung it up.
Well, they probably also didn't get like backing or
Well,
funding.
no, it was on Logo at the time, which was in SD, standard definition, and that's all they had. And the first like 4 or 5, 6 seasons were on Logo, and then it jumped over to VH1. But maybe even more than 6. But you can see as time went on, it really exploded, and you can see season by season, especially those first couple 4 or 5, how just the quality of the challenges, of the staging, of the props got better and better and better as time went on. And that was really exciting. I was on the ground floor of it. I loved it from day one. I was so excited about it because it literally was like Top Model meets Project Runway plus drag queens is like reality show wonderfulness.
Yeah, it's never been my cup of tea. And I think mostly I obviously have no qualms with drag queens. I mean, I have friends that are drag queens and I've used to work in bars with drag queens. Love it. I just think to me, it's that like pageantry that I'm just like, yeah, it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I think it's funny and I like watching like Snatch Game and stuff like that. I love that.
Right.
But the whole journey through it, I'm just like, okay.
Oh, well, I mean, like, you're literally looking at a person who, as a little kid, loved watching all the pageants on TV.
Oh, yeah.
I love the glitz and the glam of it. And I think one of the things that really stuck with me, I know we were talking about like sort of seeing ourselves in a show. I've never done drag, but it showed different body types. It showed different types of people performing in this art. And I could see myself in some of them. Some of the struggles that they shared about being bullied as kids and things that they have dealt with. I have dealt with those things as well. So it made me feel accepted, and I could really see myself on the screen. It's a rare show where, granted, it's a reality show, but the entire cast of main characters are LGBTQ.
Right. Yeah.
And so looking at that, it's like, oh, I see myself, and so many other people can see themselves in those people that appear on the television.
Yeah. And, some shows on here aren't without their, setbacks and stuff like that. And I know there has been some controversy with RuPaul's, especially with the transgender community. And there has been some transgender contestants recently. Let's hope it just continues forward.
Right.
Because again, it just goes back to, yes, you're in the LGBTQ community. You can't have others within the others community.
Exactly.
You can't do that. We need to stop being others and be accepting of everybody.
And it's super interesting, right? Because RuPaul as a performer started as sort of a gender fuck queer punk rocker.
Right.
And now is this huge celebrity, but it's like you were kind of based in this group of someone who didn't fit the quote unquote mainstream sort of gay personality.
Yeah. Sometimes your wig just gets too big for your head.
But yes.
But on Queer Eye, that one that's also paired with that one that ended up beating RuPaul's, I was kind of happy about it only because, so the most recent Queer Eye with Jonathan Van Ness and Anthony and Tan and Karamo and I guess Bobby too. Kidding, I love Bobby.
The hardest working guy in the bunch.
Right, but you never see what he does. You get to see one thing of him going with the people that they're making over, being like, what type of fabric or what do you feel like?
Do you like pillows?
Right, and then it's just done. But everybody else gets more screen time.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't really have to talk to them so much. He's very busy building
He's
things.
like, leave, let me do this.
Yeah.
But I mean, that show, this new one, I wasn't too big of a fan of the original. And I felt like because a lot of it was like waiting for that thing that you could laugh at the gay people doing the stuff to the straight people or whoever they were.
Yeah.
So it always rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know why. I'm not saying somebody else doesn't feel that way. That's just how I felt. But this new one, I feel like it's so focused on the heroes, the people that they're making over, that all the extra stuff with the funny things that Jonathan Van Ness does, or, Tan when he's trying to get them to try on outfits, I feel like that's all after. That's secondary. They really put the people that are in need or wanting to better themselves at the forefront. I mean, the one where they went to Japan, so good.
Oh my gosh, so good.
I don't think I've ever gotten so choked up or like felt so good about a reality show before.
Yeah. No, this show takes the reality show format and like kind of turns it in a way that makes you internalize maybe struggles that you've been through and see that I can get through that too. I mean, what I love so much about this new one is that it's no longer like the old one, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Exactly.
You know, which was a very pitted like gays are better at dressing themselves and straight people suck at that. You know what I mean? This is just Queer Eye, and it's looking at people who are maybe going through something hard or have done something amazing and deserve some love and attention,
Right.
and are shown how much they are truly worth. And it just, I get so excited. This is a show that I like binge like a maniac whenever it comes out. And that first season, I was immediately hooked because, I mean, they did such an amazing job of casting these 5 people.
Yeah, you get to see, I mean, just in the gay community alone, you get to see so many different types of gay people represented on there. I mean, somebody that leans a little more feminine, somebody that leans a little more masculine, people that are in the middle, people that don't give a fuck about any of them.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see that they all love each other. And then the people that they're also making over the heroes love them as well.
Absolutely.
So good.
And
Love it.
when you look at each of them, right, I believe Jonathan Van Ness has come out as maybe non-binary or
Right.
gender fluid. And then you have someone like Tan, who is in an interracial and interfaith relationship. You know, you have someone like Bobby, who grew up very religious, but then was an outcast and had to make it on his own.
Hey.
Hey, ring a bell. Anthony, who actually does not identify as gay. He identifies as queer, or maybe not even that. He just loves who he loves.
Right.
And then Karamo, who was groundbreaking because when he was on The Real World Philadelphia back in the day, he was the first out African-American man to be on television.
Yep.
I mean,
Groundbreaking.
all of them in their own right. And they just bring joy to Netflix, I feel, and to television screens. So I see why Queer Eye beat RuPaul's Drag Race. I think it does maybe a little more.
Also, it's the audience. I mean,
Right.
Queer Eye's a Netflix original. I don't know a single person that doesn't have Netflix,
You're totally right.
you know? So
Yeah.
be it whichever one you like the most. And also, this championship was not to be like, which one's the best? It was also to shine a light on, hey, these are LGBTQ shows. It's also Pride Month. Pride Month isn't the only time that we should or shouldn't talk about LGBTQ community and press that and uplift representation. But it's just fun to also celebrate it during that time because that's what it's all about. It's remembering Stonewall riots. It's seeing how far we've come and to progress forward. Love Queer Eye.
Yeah.
I personally am excited that it did win, but it didn't win all out because the next matchup that it had was versus Umbrella Academy. Prior to that, Umbrella Academy versus Bly Manor, we kind of put these two together because they're a little darker in tone, and some of the other ones are like dark dramas, but these I just felt like, you know, there's the supernatural element. It's very different. We covered Bly Manor if you want to
Go back, y'all, to season 2 of this podcast.
Was it season 2? Yeah.
I think it was.
Wow. Yeah, we covered the book that it was inspired by in the whole season. That was a lot of fun. I loved Bly Manor. I thought it was great. I do think the only downside is, like, of course, it's a great lesbian relationship on the screen. Of course, one of them dies, which isn't also great to see. But I felt like it still had that strong connection that showed these people as an actual couple.
Hearts for Jamie forever.
Yeah, Jamie and Danny.
Oh.
Loved it. But Umbrella Academy, also great.
Also great. So let's talk about another group of siblings that are connected by crazy powers and have maybe some parents that didn't do some great stuff. That is Umbrella Academy.
We did have a few people that had either shared the post or talked about it or were like, why is Umbrella Academy on there? I mean, it did have you have Vanya, played by Elliot Page, and they had a whole arc in the second season where they discovered their sexuality and they were in a secret lesbian relationship, also because of the times. So it shined a light on that, but also showed that it was the woman, I forget her name, but their true love. Like, that's who she was supposed to be with, not the father of her kid that's also abusive, but that person. Then you also have Klaus, which, I mean,
hello.
God, I don't even know what he is because he's just so free.
Right.
Most of the time, but you have that very, very good story, especially in the second season with his true love that he had to leave in the war after he came back from the past. And oh, so good. I think that one had a little more representation and some good stories than Bly Manor, but I felt like with both of them being kind of larger singular casts or like very contained casts, but having supernatural elements, that's why they were good paired together.
Yeah, I Noah had watched the first season of Umbrella Academy way before I had. He actually introduced me to it. He was like, I think you'll like this, because the second season was about to come out. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it. I think we watched like 6 episodes in one night. We were up till like 3 a.m. I was like, put another one on.
I'm so happy. So I'm a huge comic book reader. So trying to get Derek to like come into that world with me, it wasn't a struggle, but it's like, hey, do you want to watch this show that has like a talking ape and then this guy kind of looks like an ape and then, you know, they have powers? It's like, I can't explain it. Just watch it.
There's also a fish that talks. It's like the leader of an agency.
I was so happy when he liked it. But one of the matchups that I was so surprised that didn't go forward, Steven Universe versus She-Ra. This, again, we put them together because they were both very well done and great animated shows. I was happy Steven Universe won. I was not happy that it didn't go forward.
Agreed.
From that.
So I just want to say that She-Ra is so fantastic. The series is done now. You have to check it out. The amount of diversity in that show is phenomenal. Not only with LGBTQ, but body sizes and diversity in race. And it's just fantastic.
It's so good.
I actually think that She-Ra might have had one of the first like gender fluid animated characters ever.
Yeah. Also, I think also like 2 dads as well.
Oh yeah, Bo's dads. Yeah, so it's just you have to watch it.
It is groundbreaking.
Yeah,
and it's great.
It was showrunner was Noelle Stevenson, who is a graphic novelist, and they are fantastic.
Follow their Instagram and Twitter because it's so much fun.
Oh my gosh. So their wife is Molly Knox Ostertag, who's also a graphic novelist.
Yep.
So she did Witch Boy, which is one of my favorites. She also had a new one called Girl from the Sea, which is phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I was lucky enough at Comic-Con one year to moderate a panel that she was on.
Oh, I always forget about that.
Yeah. And I was so lucky. And so she was so sweet because that was the year that they announced She-Ra. And at Comic-Con, there was like a 30-foot statue of Noelle's She-Ra. And so when I first met Molly, she walked, because the panel was at the New York Public Library. She walked into the library. She was wearing a paper She-Ra crown and had a paper She-Ra sword that they gave at a Comic-Con. And she was like, I just saw Noelle's statue. I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud. And I was like, my heart is bursting.
Talk about power couple.
Oh my gosh, such a power couple. They're amazing. Read everything by both of them, please.
It's really good. I mean, that show is so heartwarming. It deals with a lot of friendship and different types of relationships. I was surprised. I didn't know who would win with this one, but again, I do think it does come back down to the bigger audience with it. Because Steven Universe, I mean, that show is so good. If you started watching it and kind of fell off after the first couple episodes, you have to absolutely keep going, because once you kind of find out at the end of the first season what the deal really is, then it just gets bananas.
And then like those, like the beginning of the show is really setting up a lot of the character origin.
And it's also, I feel like it's geared more towards younger kids.
Right. And it's like, this is where they're starting. Right. They're starting as all these very young characters emotionally. And as it goes on, as things get more serious, they grow. And so when those filler episodes like happen, you're kind of welcoming them because you've just had to process so much stuff. I mean, when I finally got to the final episode of Steven Universe, not Steven Universe Future, I was actually watching it on a plane on my phone going to a conference, and my colleague Darla and her husband were sitting next to me. Hi, Darla and Stefan, if you're listening. And they had seen it before, so they were just waiting for me to watch it. And then it finished, and I looked at them, and I started hysterical crying. But that's like how emotionally connected I was to this story and these characters. They're so beautiful, so many of them, and they're not perfect in any way, and they just are true. Even though they're gems, even though they're these otherworldly beings, they're dealing with things that we've all dealt with.
Right.
Broken heart and rage and sadness and betrayal. Oh my gosh. And there's a lion. There's a lion.
Yeah, when you find out what Lion's deal is, it's
No.
very upsetting. No, and I really think the standout character, especially as far as LGBTQ representation goes, is Garnet.
This is Garnet. Back together.
Yeah. Voiced by Estelle.
Yes.
And amazing as well, because they sing in this too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll have some songs every now and then. Amazing, by the way. But Estelle, being a singer, they also sing for it. I love it every time. But there's a specific episode that you find out that this character is actually a fusion of two gems. And all the gems are female. There's no male gems. Steven Universe is like a hybrid human gem. That's why he's really the only male identifying gem that there is.
Mhm.
But you find out that it's two women.
Yeah.
They're fusing. The whole time you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's I mean, so sorry. Spoiler
Oh,
alert.
you by now.
No, what if someone didn't know and they're going to watch it? No, they don't. But the scene where you find this out, because when you meet Garnet, all you know is Garnet is Garnet.
Right. You
It's-
don't. You have no idea that there's fusions or
Right.
anything like
Garnet is a gem
Right.
that is with Steven. She's a crystal gem. And when it is revealed, it is such joy and your mind is blown.
that. Mhm.
I just can't get over the scene. I rewound it about 10 times because it just made my heart and head explode.
This is also one of the first animated shows that featured a LGBTQ wedding.
Y'all, they get married.
Yeah, they get married.
Okay.
It's great.
It's fantastic.
Loved it. Loved this show.
Ugh.
Killing Eve did beat it out. So Killing Eve.
Killing Eve.
Let's talk about this show. I think it is one of the most interesting shows that's out there because it does feel a little detective-y. It's like cat and mousey, but then you have like the detective, spoiler alert, and the assassin that she's hunting. They're like obsessed with each other.
Yeah.
And then the more and more it goes on, it's like, this isn't just like obsessed like career-wise. It's like obsessed physically, spiritually.
Yeah,
like
it's like that feeling of when you have a crush.
but it's like intensified.
Yes.
Yeah, this show is so bananas. It did get to the finals, and I do think it is one of the most interesting ones because the whole time with Eve and Villanelle, you see both of them not struggling with their sexuality, but struggling with liking each other or what that actually means.
Because
But you're
literally the other one is looking to kill the other one.
right, but they also like each other.
Well, right. That's why they're struggling with it. It's like, I want you to die, but also kiss me.
But it's so
What?
cool to see Sandra Oh in a show like this because, I mean, if you only think about her in Grey's Anatomy, watch this and your mind will just completely.
Yes,
like,
totally.
This took over every time I think of Sandra Oh in my head, I picture her in Scrubs talking to.
Yang.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Ugh, okay, she's done so many other things. Like, stop thinking that's the only one. This one completely wiped that out.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yes. And now we also need to talk about for their Eve, there is a Villanelle, Jodie Comer, the
Right.
actress that plays. Oh my gosh. So this character,
She's only like, what, 25?
she's so talented
Yeah.
and
Psychotic.
psychotic. And that's the thing. She can play like psychotic, murder, playful, silly, like sarcastic, funny. It's wild. Also, she's British and she's doing like a Russian accent the entire time.
I buy it though.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
totally.
Yeah.
And I love when she actually slips into her real voice, her real British accent, because it's always like this very chipper British woman.
Right,
Oh my
right.
gosh, it's so good.
I do want to say, so I don't know what Jodie identifies as.
Hmm.
And just to put it out there, I love LGBTQ actors getting work and playing
Mm-hmm.
themselves or the roles that they're in. The actor one had to agree to it, and hopefully that they're okay with that and they
Mhm.
believe in whatever they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I'm not somebody that's going to get upset if a straight actor plays a gay character.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's like, well, were they really the only people that were good for it? It's one of those things. It's like, of course, I wish LGBTQ people got more roles and played the
Yeah.
roles that they are. But if it's good representation and they're telling a good story,
Yeah.
the job is done.
Well,
It is acting.
yeah, and I think it kind of goes to something that I believe Kristen Stewart said in an interview. She had said, "Well, if only gay actors can play gay roles, does that mean a gay actor can't play a straight role?
Exactly.
So am I like, it's, this isn't exactly what she said, but she's like, isn't it limiting for me as a gay actor, which means that I can only play gay roles because only gay people can play gay roles? So I thought that was an interesting take on it, because I think I battle with that myself, because I want more representation. I also want more LGBTQ actors to be able to represent themselves on the screen. But then what does that mean? Is it putting limits on them as
Right.
well? I don't know. It's hard.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of what I was like, I mean, if it's a good story and it's great representation and the actor isn't literally preaching the opposite, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, especially if they're an ally or if they're very welcoming and everything, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
Like, of course. I want more LGBTQ people to get more work. But I mean, if they didn't get the part because of their audition or anything like that, there's like no way to know.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, I think like, there's something to say about like, I don't know, if you look at like winners of Best Actor, Best Actress Oscars, right? There's always that like very weird thing of like straight people who played gay winning. And it's like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, well, it was such a task for me because I
had to act gay.
I had to act gay. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I mean, like, it's like, okay, well, it's like Charlize Theron in Monster. It's like Hilary Swank in Boys Don't Cry. It's,
right.
Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, which are all like transformative roles. I don't know. I think it's gray. It's a gray area.
Yeah, I really think it's dependent on what the role is, what the story is being told. I mean, again, back to Pose, you had transgender people playing transgender roles.
Right.
You literally had them acting, their character gets HIV. Some of these characters, these actors had HIV as well. So it's like Ryan Murphy really made sure to be like, these people that are playing these characters are actually these people.
Right.
So you can see that in their performances. So there is a little difference in it. And it's also something that's so nice to see. It's like, seeing that, like, I believe this is really one of the first times with a show like that, with Pose specifically. And that's why it was so good. That's why it was so big, because it meant more than just the story it was telling.
Right.
And that's why it's so important. All of this stuff is so important.
Yeah.
That's why we need more of it.
Yeah. So Jodie Comer, however they identify, is a lesbian assassin, a good representation? I don't know. But the thing is like, it's not like, and also I don't know if the character fully identifies as lesbian. They never really say
it's
outright.
hard to tell with her. She's a little cuckoo.
However it is. But like, it's not like because of her sexuality, she became an assassin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
She is an assassin. Oh, and she just also happens to like boys and guys.
Exactly. And it's never made to be like, oh, you like girls kind of thing.
There's no like coming out,
right?
Which I am so fucking tired of seeing. I don't need coming out stories for every single person that's being represented. I don't need that. We don't need it. We've heard it. We get it.
Right.
Just act like it's normal, because it is fucking normal.
Just to touch on another show that's on here, Special, which is on Netflix. So it was 2 seasons. They were very short. It just ended. This whole series just ended. But again, it's this intersectionality. And in that show, he doesn't struggle with coming out as gay. He struggles with coming out with cerebral palsy.
Right.
He actually tells the people at his new job that he was hit by a car. And that's why his body is the way it is, because he didn't want to be labeled as someone with a disability.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, no, I'm gay, but also I was hit by a car. and so that's the thing though, is that with shows as they're coming out, we need to see that being gay, the experience of being gay, is more than just coming out of the closet.
Oh yeah.
You can be gay and black, you can be queer and Latinx, or you know what I mean? There's so many other facets to our community than just I'm gay, mom and dad. And I understand in shows for teens and in books for teens, because that's something that they might be grappling with. But when we're looking at older characters, it would be nice to know that your life doesn't become perfect and magical after you come out as a teenager. There's going to be other things you're dealing with.
The story that's being told about you doesn't have to be about coming out.
Right.
Is it plain and simple? It's over and done with.
Yeah,
what happens after?
Yeah, I came out at 17. It ain't all roses. Okay. My life ain't magical. Okay.
All right. So, I mean, we talked about a bunch of them. We're rambling on about this stuff, but it was really fun. And we wanted to talk about it a little bit and also how we felt about these shows because we take bites of tons of shows and this is right in our wheelhouse.
I mean, this is truly a nibble of every show. You know how we say that? There's a nibble.
So at the finals, it came down to Killing Eve and Schitt's Creek. And I will tell you, I followed it throughout the whole 24 hours that the Instagram post and the Twitter posts were up. I kept sending screenshots to Derek and I'm like, okay, Instagram has Schitt's Creek winning, Twitter has Killing Eve winning, and then sometimes there were 50-50 on both. And I'm like, what happens if there's a tie?
Noah was obsessed. He was obsessed.
I was really obsessed.
He couldn't handle it.
And then you had, stan accounts for Killing Eve sharing it, being like voting for it. I'm like, okay, you guys don't even know what this is for, one, but thank you. So I was like, what if Killing Eve won? It's fine, but out of these two, obviously I would want Schitt's Creek to win a little more. And Schitt's Creek ended up winning, and I'm literally telling you guys, it won by 2 votes. It was so close.
Yes.
So real quick, thank you everybody that does listen to us that voted with this. This stuff is fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But let's talk about Schitt's Creek for a second. No, it is not the most diverse show on here. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you, the people, did vote for it. And it is a great show. I think not only writing-wise, it was a father and son creative team that created it. It featured a great relationship of a gay couple that you don't really get to see often. It was great. I mean, I don't think most people I know have watched this show and like it, or at least have seen some memes because it exploded by the 3rd season.
It brought Catherine O'Hara back out into the world for everybody to notice how goddamn talented she is.
Right.
And the Moira Rose memes went off the charts.
They're still some of my favorite GIFs, whatever you want to say, however you pronounce it, to send, like to this day.
One of my favorite things ever was when there was a crossover of a meme of Schitt's Creek and The Mandalorian. Oh. Let me see the baby. And it's Grogu. It's so good.
I'll have to post that. I think I still have it somewhere.
Oh, my favorite.
But this Canadian-based show was interesting because it didn't really get popular until it started going on Netflix. It just flew under the radar for the first 3 seasons. I know people are picking it up and kind of talking about it, but once it was on Pop and then Netflix got it, exploded.
Well, what's so interesting to me is that, maybe this is something that's I don't know, oh, of course you got interested when it started getting gayer. But the first 3 seasons I really liked, but then when the relationship happened,
when Patrick came into
Patrick
the picture,
showed up, I was like, oh, things are getting interesting. Especially Patrick was an interesting foil to David because he was so opposite. And when you see the opposite of them, of the family, it's like Roland, who is, I don't know, a bumpkin or something like that, or however they're trying to portray him. You know what I mean? He's dirty and he's crass and they can't stand that. So when Patrick shows up, he's an opposite of David, but it's not that far of an opposite.
Right.
So you can still see them having a little back and forth, but it was nice to see another sort of representation of what the opposite of these uppity folks could be in this town.
Right.
And the way that they made that relationship grow was, I liked the route it took.
Yeah, it was interesting because you had Patrick dealing with his own sexuality. I mean, he obviously didn't marry his fiance because he knew that he didn't love her that way, and he's dealing with it. And sadly, it happens a lot. That's why a lot of older people do come out as gay later on because either one, it went on for 30 years and oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Or they just figured it out a little later.
And sometimes you're too scared.
Yeah. And seeing that route, it was nice because it wasn't just ew, coming out or whatever. He did have to deal with his parents, confront his ex and everything, but he had David there. David that had his own little journey in the first 3 seasons. He kind of slept with Stevie a little bit.
Right. Well, he says he likes wine. It doesn't matter what type of wine. He just likes wine.
Exactly. So you get to see that as a contrast between Patrick coming out.
Yeah.
But the only thing I will say, and coming from somebody that does identify as gay and seeing all the stuff represented, it was a little weird towards the end when Patrick and David, it's not weird that they kind of were exploring a threesome with that, what was his name, Jake or something like that?
Yeah.
That's not weird. Whatever. Do you? I don't give a shit. But it was weird to me the night before or the day before their wedding that David had like a happy ending with that massage guy that Patrick did not set up that for that way.
Right.
And then it was just like no big deal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like that doesn't seem realistic with the characters,
Yeah.
nor with a normal relationship.
I just thought, yeah, that was definitely such a weird beat to have in the wedding show. Like, I mean, I guess when
Especially
you,
towards the end.
yeah, I mean, I guess when you look at comedies, right? And whenever there's a wedding episode, like something has to go wrong, right? Like it was like in Full House, I think Uncle Jesse got cold feet and then he got stuck in a tree because he went skydiving.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I get it. Like it can never just be easy. Something silly has to happen, but why I don't know, it's like a fidelity issue on
Right.
the episode of their wedding. It was like a very bizarre choice to make.
It was interesting because Patrick didn't seem too happy about it, but then it was like, we gotta like move forward.
Yeah.
So that was kind of brushed under the rug, which is fine. I mean, people probably deal with that way. I know I wouldn't, but it was just a little interesting because it was like, it was tipping into the direction of like, of course, the gay people on the show are being promiscuous,
Mhm.
which a lot of people think that the LGBTQ community are just sex freaks and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is definitely not the case. So I was worried about that. And that's really the only qualms I have with the show. I think it could have been a little more diverse, but overall, I thought it was a great family show. It did have some good representation all around. It was good. I can see why it won.
Yeah, great, funny characters. I mean, I think really created sort of a meme revolution in the sense of how popular it was and the sound bites that came from it. I mean, Moira's entire dictionary, you know, her thesaurus of amazing words that she uses, just are incredible, and they all deserve the Emmys that they won. It was just that little hiccup at the end for me that sort of lost me. 'Cause everything,
Good thing it was at the end, though.
right? Because the thing is, though, is that like in looking at the character of Patrick, like why in a million years would David think that Patrick set that up for him?
Yeah,
you
he's
know what I
very,
mean?
he's like a better word, like wholesome,
Yeah,
you know? So, and I don't know. I mean, again, I think it was just that kind of writing trope with it. Like something has to go weird before the wedding. But speaking of their wedding, great. I thought it was really cool to see like a nice wedding on the screen with that. And also Moira's outfit is nobody could ever top that being an officiant.
The hair rim on the bottom of the Pope hat or whatever she was wearing is just hilarious.
I do have to ask. So what is your favorite Schitt's Creek moment? Do you have one? Like what is the first one that comes to your head?
Oh, well, it's not really a funny one. It's a cheesy one. It's when Patrick sings to David at the Rose Apothecary.
I mean, that's really sweet.
It's so beautiful.
That is-
It makes me cry.
So sweet. And also, I mean, which is really weird. This guy has like literally the same name as
Yeah.
me. Noah, he is a great singer. So it was cool that he got to showcase that a little
Yeah.
bit, but it was so sweet. And then later on when David like makes amends with Patrick
Mhm.
and then he does like a lip sync dance for him with the
Yes.
same song. Oh, it's so cute. Love that.
So cute.
Okay. What about, funny moment. What is a funny moment that comes to your mind?
Oh,
Don't make it so serious.
I'm not good at these. See, I'm not good at these like off the cuff things. Like, tell me your favorite this. I'm like, no, I need to sit down and write a list and then I can think about it. Well, I mean, there's like a little bit of Alexis,
Oh my God. Iconic.
which is
When she performed it, so good.
So good. That's hilarious. I mean, Noah and I, that will come up on Noah's Spotify and we leave it on in the car.
I do have that on my playlist because it is so funny.
Amazing.
It's like I'm a little bit single,
even when I'm not.
It's
And
like,
then I also love Jocelyn and Moira sitting at the table, like shaking their heads no, like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is terrible. Make it stop. Oh my God. And the Moira scene with Stevie before she goes on stage
during Cabaret.
during Cabaret.
Oh, so
Oh
good.
my gosh, so sweet.
That's so heartwarming. I mean,
Yeah.
Stevie was a great character, and I think unassumingly became a very like heartwarming character the
Yeah.
more and more you found out about her. I think that was one of the cool things about the show. It was like it was funny, it was
Mm-hmm.
quippy, but then you got more into the characters, but they didn't like make it all about that. You
Right.
found out bits and pieces here and there. Also, they're strangers in the town, so it kind of made sense that you would eventually find out about stuff. But okay, so I have to say one of my favorite moments. It's not so folding in the cheese is absolutely hilarious.
Fold in the cheese, of course.
Moira and David learning how to cook, which neither of them looked like they've ever been in a kitchen before. And she tells him to fold the cheese, and he's like, "What does that mean?" And she was like, "You fold it. You fold it in." And he's like, "But what does that mean?"
She also says something along the lines of like, I can't show you everything, David. He's like, can you just show me this one thing?
Yeah.
You've never shown me anything. It's just, oh my God.
Okay, so I think one of my all-time favorite moments of this show, again, is with Moira, but when she's at, what's his name? Herb Ertlinger's.
Yes.
The very first time she's there and she's doing their commercial and she cannot for the life of her say his name. And it is one of the funniest end credit scenes of anything I've ever watched. I cry laughing every time.
Nestled in the hills of Nürburgring or whatever.
She keeps trying to say it and it's like, why? Oh, it's so good.
I will also say that this show holds a special place in my heart because it was one of the first shows that Noah and I ever watched together.
Yeah.
So it just like always brings me back to a very specific moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is delightful. But then I got a little weird towards the end.
So that's us kind of just talking about this championship. We thought it would be fun to do a little bonus episode on this little championship and get to talk about these a little bit.
And thank you so much to everybody who actually voted in this and took the time to click on an Instagram thing or go through Twitter and follow the threads. We really appreciate it. It really was so much fun for us to do to see what the results were because we were flabbergasted a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think so. Before we go, is there one that won that's very surprising to you? Did I already ask you that?
I think you asked me about one that
Specifically?
lost.
Right. Okay, so is there a matchup that surprised you on who the winner was?
I think I was a little surprised by Love Victor and Euphoria. Maybe Love Victor is just a little too young, and the folks that were like, Euphoria is on HBO Max, so it's a little grittier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's what people kind of go towards more.
Yeah, I mean, Euphoria, I think that's more in my wheelhouse than Love Victor is. I love Simon, and I haven't watched Love Victor, and I know that's something that Derek really likes, so I can't speak to that. But I did think that was interesting, that pairing, and then who won that out. I did think Sex Education making it as far as it did was pretty interesting, but again, it's a Netflix show, so I think that the accessibility of it, people know more about it. Yeah. And it's like, oh, Euphoria or Sex Education. It's like, well, I've watched Sex Education. I don't have HBO Max, so I don't watch that.
And there's also that thought of being bingeable. I can watch a whole bunch of it, and that might stick in my mind more than something that I watch weekly or might lose track of.
I want to say that probably the pairing I was most surprised about was Killing Eve versus Steven Universe.
Yeah.
I was really pulling for Steven Universe. I love both of them equally, but I did not expect Killing Eve to kill the competition as much as it did.
Same. I was not expecting Killing Eve to make it to the finals.
No.
That blew my mind for sure.
I guess we don't know you guys as well as we thought we did.
You guys just keeping us on our toes. Oh my gosh, you tricksters.
All right. Well, that's it for this bonus episode. Hope you guys have a great Pride Month.
Happy Pride, folks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to A Bite of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite of. Bye.